Welcome to the Martial Arts Lifestyle Podcast, where we talk with martial arts practitioners about their histories and the influence that their practice of martial arts has on their lives. You are listening to the free version of this podcast, which is abbreviated. Help support this program by considering to subscribe to us on Patreon, where you will get 4 full-length podcasts each month, 1 week before the YouTube release date. The cost is that of about 1 coffee shop coffee per month. Go to www.patreon.com/malmag to subscribe. That is www.patreon.com/malmag. If you would like to purchase single full-length episodes of the Martial Arts Lifestyle Podcast, visit our Gumroad page at malmag.gumroad.com, and that is malmag.gumroad.com. This week, I sit down in Marina del Rey with UK's Jackie Rayner, and we discuss how she got into martial arts and how it applies to her life. A very interesting story. Sit back and enjoy. Martial Arts Lifestyle Podcast, and I'm sitting here in Marina del Rey, just finishing a seminar at the Inosanto Academy. It was kind of a dual seminar with Drew Inosanto, of course, and then a gentleman by the name of Saya. Well, Saya is a title. Saya is a teacher in the Burmese art of Letway, and Saya Winzu is his name. And so, great seminar, and just so happened that someone I've known for a long time came walking through the door and sort of surprised me, so I absolutely twisted her arm and convinced her that she needed to do a podcast with me. She's in visiting from the United Kingdom. This is Jackie Rayner, right?
Yes,
okay.
Yes, Jackie Rayner. Hi.
Got it. And you're from, I think, Scotland.
Yes, Scotland and Bermuda.
And Bermuda,
and
right.
Bermuda.
I remember the conversation over DK Donuts a long time ago.
Yeah.
About that. You know, I remember you had sort of an interesting history of being from 2 places that weather-wise were not the same.
Not the same. No. I was born and raised in Bermuda, but my dad was from Bermuda and my mother was from Scotland, but born and raised in Bermuda and lived there for 17 years before moving away to university. So I confused things because I lived in Canada for 9 years for university, and then I moved over to Scotland for more university, and I've been staying there for the last 23 years.
Wow.
So it ends up being this really confusing story when people ask, where are you from? Because they hear the accent, like especially when I'm in Scotland, they hear the accent and they're like, where are you from? And they normally assume I'm North American or American. I say, well, I'm half Scottish, I'm from Bermuda, I was raised there, I've been living here for 23 years, but I have to say the bit about 9 years in Canada because I think that accent really kind of stuck with me, depending on who I'm speaking to. They'll hear different things.
There you go. I was going to say, so your English is all messed up.
All messed up, yeah. I'll code switch, so depending on who I'm speaking to, like, I'll switch it up a little bit.
That's
so
cool.
Like when I'm back in Bermuda, like certain slang words will come out, and when I'm in Scotland, like there's a certain undulation, like when you intonate certain words, so I have to do it in that way. Canadian can be very like, when you're speaking, it sounds like you're asking a question, and I noticed I had to switch that right away in Scotland because they always looked at me like puzzling, like, are you asking a question all the time? Like, no, it's just the way we do it in Canada.
It's how American girls speak too.
Yeah. But 7 years in Montreal and then 2 years in Vancouver, so I got both coasts.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's a pretty good. That's interesting because I don't know a lot about Canadian accents, but one of the good parts of the Academy is meeting so many people. We have so many Canadians there, and I do hear that somebody like John, who's from like Newfoundland, sounds a bit different than obviously like Annie, who comes in from Vancouver, or James or somebody like that, or even Marvin, Marvin's an Islander to begin with anyway. But you know, those folks are all coming in from like was it Manitoba? So you know, and that's kind of like straight up from like Nevada for us, you know. So they're sort of west, but not West Coast exactly. So
it's
very interesting, diverse group that we always have here. And to me, you're a great example of that diverse group, not only in your background, but you know, you come in and you train a lot. I mean, we're always seeing you. The funny thing is, who was it that was here? I forget who it was. It might have actually been. Oh God, I'm drawing a blank on his name. That came in with Saya.
Not Sid.
No, No, I've been talking to Sid about actually getting him in here. See, I'm going to have to edit this because I'm feeling Pat.
Pat.
Yeah,
okay.
Pat. So Pat says, "You mean that girl isn't here? She isn't one of your students here?" I said, "No." He goes, "She's been here every time I've come."
Yeah.
And I said, "Well, that just worked out because she's actually from the UK."
Yeah.
I said, "So you guys have a bizarre travel schedule if you're both, showing
Yes.
up at the
Exactly.
same time."
Yeah. I mean, if you're here, you're spending a week here or 10 days here, I want
Yeah.
to get to as many classes as I can.
Absolutely.
You put a lot of time and effort into making the trip happen, and to have that opportunity to train with not only under Guru, but with all of Guru's students, just having that experience is just amazing. Yeah.
Right.
I wouldn't want to waste my time. I mean, obviously there's lots of things to see and do in California and LA in particular, but my priority is to come and be at the Inosanto Academy. Yeah.
Now that's an interesting thing to say because I'm local, and I can't say obviously I know exactly who Guru is in the bigger picture and all this, and I would probably most definitely be someone like yourself if I didn't live here. I'd be a person traveling in.
Yeah.
But talk about that a little bit. That this martial art thing, and we'll go back and get into how you got into it and all that stuff. But how this is such a passion that you're making this very big trip fairly regularly, at least like once a year, once every couple of years, and you're hanging out for a period of time. And I'm also guessing you probably maybe go to Italy when he goes there. And so you're hitting. You're also involved with like Rick Fay.
Yeah.
So you're hitting those things. So it's not like you're going far for one guy every once in a while. You're going places for several people, or even somebody like Guru Dan to several places. So what drives that?
What drives that? Well, I should probably start by saying the primary Rick in my life is Rick Young.
Right.
And I also do have a lot of time that I spend with Rick Fay, and then obviously got Guru Daniel, and then I also spend time with Daniel Linero. So I think it's quite fun that it's two Ricks and two Daniels.
Two Ricks and two Daniels,
and
yeah.
that doesn't get confusing. It doesn't get confusing, not at all. It keeps you right. So I guess if there's any other instructors coming along, if you're not named Rick or Daniel, I don't want to know you.
Yeah. Or you're
it.
just not going to get the
Keeps
time.
me right.
How about that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's hard because trying to go back and see how this started kind of puts into perspective on how I am now. But I think that drive to kind of keep going, keep learning. I'm a kind of eternal student, so I did spend a long time in university. So I think I like being on that receiving end of learning and developing, and how my career developed alongside my passion for martial arts kind of keeps things in balance. So, my early years in Bermuda, I wouldn't say there was a strong martial art time there, but I remember like playing with wooden swords that I'd use, because like in Bermuda around Easter time we make these wooden kites, so they're made with like thin wood and then tissue paper, and they're always flown on Easter Friday. And I remember distinctly, I don't know if it was like 9 or 10, and I had these pieces of wood and I was doing like sword play with that, and that was like I think the first strong memory I had of like thinking I like playing martial arts. But that a little bit of after school kind of curriculum with the Latin teacher who's from Wales. She taught a little bit of karate on one school term, but I wouldn't really say
the Latin teacher,
from Wales,
who's a karate expert.
Not a karate expert. I think she's like a yellow belt or something.
Well,
I don't really
that's
remember.
an expert when everyone else doesn't know any, right?
Yeah, for an all-girls school in Bermuda, it was enough. So that was a little dabble, but I would say the main way that I started was when I moved to Montreal. So 17, in a big city, moved away from a small island.
Oh, so you were almost an adult when you started.
Almost an adult.
Wow.
Yeah, so 17, and I was trying to find like extracurricular things to do, so I was looking at what they had in the university, and they had ice skating, and I thought, well, that'd be good. We're in Canada, but ice skating was full.
It's religion there, I believe.
Yes, I do. I'm aware, absolutely. Ice skating was full, but then this women's self-defense class had started, so I signed up for that, and that's where the world really opened up. So it was more like stress-based drills. Like we did do techniques, but it was more about how you reacted under pressure, and I think that really just opened up a real passion for me at that point. And that instructor, Michael Gregory, so Michael Gregory from Canada, not the UK Michael Gregory, he also taught other martial arts, so we were doing Taekwondo, a bit of karate. That kind of class did kind of change and morphed a little bit more into Savat training and capoeira. He also did a Cali.
That's quite a change.
It's quite a change, yeah. Just more like the kickboxing upright, more cardio-based class, yeah. Also like Kali with Wing Chun and Jun Fan kind of mixed class, and then the Muay Thai and Shuto class was like mixed as well. So this is an instructor that was quite adept at a few different things.
Wow.
And we just had lots of classes. He was based in McGill University as well as Concordia. So I just really started training loads, writing notes. Like, I wish I could understand my notes from back then.
Right.
But yeah, it was just a very different time in my life. And I think, you know, when you're new, you're young, you're in a new city, you're trying to like find yourself. And I think that's a really good age to get into an activity like this.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing how much variety you had available to you.
Right away.
I know for me growing up, it was you had Okinawan karate, you had Japanese karate, you had Korean karate, Taekwondo. You know, you had there was a judo club, I think, probably with the YMCA or something.
Yeah.
There was a couple of kung fu guys that are actually still there. One of which taught out of the same school I did, and is a good friend of mine to this day. That's the people that had me out in Illinois here not too long for a seminar. Very influential in my life, but you know, there wasn't like the exoticness of that kind of blend that you were getting
exposed to early on.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, so it's really, really like fortunate with that. And I would have to say that my first exposure to Siyu Gurna Santo was in Canada. So I think it was 1992. I have certificates for 1993, but I do think the first year was 1992. It was in Ottawa. And I went along with my instructor, Michael Gregory, and also Philip Jelinas?
Oh, Phil Jelinas.
Jelinas, yes.
Yeah.
I didn't say it wrong. So we drove over to Ottawa. I stayed with them, and then saw my hat, like went to the first seminar. And I just remember there was a technique that Philip went up to demonstrate as a Puder Kapala. I didn't know what it was at the time, because I was really quite new to it all. And he whipped the person so fast that his legs lifted off the ground. And like that was one of those moments. You always have these moments where it's like, that's what I want to do. You know, like that's the thing that like really piques your interest and really just makes you go, wow, that's a moment. And like they were doing some other training that I think was probably instructor training. And I remember hearing from a distance, ka, ua.
Oh, wow.
L. So
there we go.
Hearing that then, and just you know, being exposed to Gurna Santo from a young age, and early on in my time in training, that really helped start the path. So like I would see him yearly in Montreal, where Philip would host him. And then now, obviously, I'm living in different parts of the world.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it sounds like the Puder Kapala, that particular seminar was a road mark, we should say, where you're like, okay, I liked martial arts, now this is the one, this is the stuff that I want to do.
Yeah, just seeing people work at a really high level and just, you know, having that level and that caliber of instruction early on, I think that was important and just pivotal as well. Yeah, I mean, if you go back to your question, what's the drive? You know, it's endless learning, it's endless development. It's you know, I know they always say you shouldn't be in competition with other people, it's competition with yourself, but I'm always trying to feel like, can I be better than I was yesterday? Can I be better than the age I am right now? How can I be improving? How can I be learning about not just the technique, but also how it feels within me when I'm doing it, and how it feels for my training partner, the people I work with, at training, as well as just the cultural aspect of it. I think it hits so many different things, physical, emotional, mental. You know, if you miss training for a little while, you do start to notice things start not feeling quite right.
And you get crabby.
You get crabby, yeah. It could be mood changes, or it could be just like mood changes, or just difficulty concentrating or not sleeping as well. Just there's a certain rhythm that you have, I think, with training, and it's just a really big part of my life. And if it means that I get to travel to nice parts of the world like Germany, Spain, Italy, California, like I'm a happy camper.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Yeah.
Now, do you find yourself to be that eternal student in other areas as well? Are you just sort of naturally like this inquisitive person who wants to learn different things?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it took a while for me to settle on my career path. I started out, like I really loved doing sports as a you know, a kid growing up. I did do a lot of you know, swimming in Bermuda growing up. Taught swimming for a long time in Bermuda. I was also on the Bermudian national team for swimming.
Wow.
As well as at one point there was a crossover. I was also on the under-21 national field hockey team. So I remember going from swimming training, national swimming training, to national field hockey training.
Wow.
And I was there on the back of my dad's bike, like eating motorbike, eating breakfast, like going from one train to the other. So I think, you know, there was just this drive of doing lots of sports. So when I initially started in university in Canada, my first degree was a Bachelor of Education in Physical Education and Fitness. And then I started to realize, oh, I like the moving body. I like, you know, athleticism, looking how we move. But then seeing that and doing the courses on anatomy and physiology, and also starting to do martial arts, piqued my interest on, you know, levers, joints, biomechanics, how the body gets injured, whether that be you're injured yourself or you've injured yourself because of how you're training or you know, small hiccups, or how you injure somebody else. So that started the path of, I really think I want to be a physiotherapist or physical therapist, they call here. So I finished off my time in Montreal, and then I moved over to Vancouver, and I did a BSc in kinesiology, and that was kind of like a stepping stone, and then moved over to Scotland to study physiotherapy.
Oh, wow.
So there's that constant need of like, okay, I like this area, but I want to learn a bit more about this, a bit more about that, and I think finally just landing on a, you know, a career that was a better fit for me. But I mean, I would say that's the means of income, but martial arts is like my main passion. I think.
That's what you get up for.
Yeah, that's what I wake up for. Yeah, I think so.
So cool.
Yeah, no, I just really enjoy it. And when it comes to like learning, like in terms of, there's martial arts learning, there's learning about how to interact with people when you're traveling to different countries.
Oh, yeah.
But also, you know, learning different languages. So I did study French growing up in school, but we didn't have a lot of conversational French in Bermuda. You know, English is the first language there, the main language. There are some people that speak Portuguese there that are from the Azores, but it wasn't really a language that you learned on the street. So French growing up, probably didn't leave Montreal as kind of fluent as I wanted to be in French, but I did do my best. I tried. Also been learning Spanish over the years, and more recently over the last year, I should probably check my Duolingo. I think I'm on 340 days straight of German.
Wow.
Yeah, so trying to learn German, my partner's German, so I just feel like I want to get a better grasp of the language.
Well, that's great.
Yeah.
Well, the nice thing is you don't have a shortage of a few Germans that you know that you might
No,
be able to talk
there's
with.
a lot of good Germans.
Martial art wise. You know.
Yeah. And I think it gives you a different perspective of the world when you see the world through the eyes of a different language, a different culture, different way of expressing yourself. And I've always been really envious of people that are like multilingual, like fluent, really fluent. Yeah. And I just would hope that, you know, the little bit of French I have, the bit of Spanish, yes, I might get by, I might understand more than I can speak, but I'm trying to make a really big effort with the German.
I understand that, because I'm like ridiculously, stupidly pidgin in like 6 languages, and I couldn't fluently carry out a conversation in anything other than English.
Yeah.
And I've had some weird situations where I know they all get stored in the brain in the same place, because I was in Kazakhstan for a couple years teaching, and I had a girlfriend that I was living with at the time there, and the phone rings, and she asked me to answer because her hands are all, she was cooking, so her hands are all messy, and I'm thinking, okay, well, I know how to say hello, and it's Kazakhstan, they primarily in the city speak Russian, so I pretty good, I pick up the phone, and I tell the person's asking for her, and I'm like, okay, and my brain says, tell them to hold on 1 second.
Yeah.
In another language.
Ooh.
And I'm like, uno momento, por favor.
Nice.
And by the time I set that phone down and I walked over to her, I was laughing so hard. She's like, what's so funny? I said, oh, whoever's calling for you, I just told him to wait a minute in Spanish.
Yeah.
And that was the dumbest thing. And she's like, why'd you do that? I said, because I'm an idiot. But no, I said, because I'm trying to say something.
Oh, yeah.
You know.
Oh yeah, it's hard when you start like blending languages, and you're like say I spent a long time in Spain, and then I go back to Scotland and I start saying gracias in the shops, or like you know, or I'll come back from Germany, I'm like, oh, danke schön. I'm like, wait, what am I saying? What am I saying? Yeah, but as long as you're saying something, that's important.
That's why important. I say too, communication's good.
Yeah.
Do you find yourself doing things like one of the other things I would do when they were trying to teach me Russian and Kazakh, because you're learning parts. Yeah. And you are an adult, so you have the ability to express in your head a whole sentence. You just don't have the technical ability in the language. So have you ever started out in the one that you're learning and then finished it in something else?
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. I might start, like, I try and get back to speaking French, and I start in French, and I morph into Spanish.
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
oh, wait, it's
Yeah,
not
yeah,
that.
yeah.
And, like, you see the word in your head, but, like, to get to the point where you're not thinking of, you hear the Spanish word, and then you translate it into English, and then you translate it back to Spanish. Like, you want to just know the word immediately, like, you know the concept of that's a table, you
Right.
see it, tish, it's just like, you understand what it is without having to go through that delay, I think, with translating it into the language that's your first.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a skill. It's a skill. But I think I like that way it's testing your brain.
Yeah.
I think it just taxes a different part of it. It pushes me in a new way. So I get my little Duolingo on every day.
Yeah.
Hopefully twice a day sometimes. Doing my best while I'm traveling, but I should be working on my Spanish while I'm here, to be fair.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, we got a
Yeah.
little bit of that could be heard here.
That's it. The
Indeed.
thing is, like, when I lived in Montreal, there was a lot of, like, obviously it's French Canada, bilingual people, like, you could get by the whole day in French, the whole day in English, but usually I found when I was in taxis, that was the best time for me to practice my French, because they weren't looking at me.
Right.
And usually they were from, other places in the world where they spoke 5 languages, and so they were happy for me to, work on my broken French.
Yeah,
but
because they
I'm
wanted to work on it too.
Yeah,
That's good.
but I mean, well, they usually spoke French as a first or second language, but I remember walking to university one day and I heard 5 different languages other than French and English. It was such a multicultural place.
Wow.
Yeah. So I mean, it was a important part of my life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are,
Yeah.
that's cool. I think that sort of thing helps us as martial artists too, because we, especially with the group we're training with, we want to remain open-minded, and I think and Chris Harley, who I know you know, we talked about this in his podcast, which is coming up to be released. I think by the time they've heard yours, they'll have heard his, but we talked about that, how the way we look at our martial arts, why is it stopping at just martial art? It needs to hopefully expand into the way we kind of look at our lives even. And I think those situations help. I think they are complementary to the way we look at martial art, and then vice versa, the way we look at martial art is complementary to those situations.
Yeah, definitely. And like when you travel, you want to feel like you're making an effort for the place that you're visiting.
Yeah.
I find it helps with not just communication, but also with courtesy, respect.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Having that way of saying and like making the effort and trying and saying I don't speak very good or very well.
Yeah.
But here's a few broken words, and then let's see how we get by.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think part of that exploration when I do travel is the cuisine, obviously. Like if you go far away, I don't want to just have the food that I have at home.
Yeah, of course.
Or in the country that I live in. I'd rather try new things, and obviously when you come to places like this and you can try, cuisines from all over the world, I'm like, well, which one?
Spoiled,
Where will we start? But I think
And this concludes the abbreviated version of the Martial Arts Lifestyle Podcast. Please click the like and subscribe buttons as well as the notification bell. Also consider subscribing to the full-length podcast at www.patreon.com/malmag or purchasing individual full-length episodes at malmag.gumroad.com.
Thank you for listening to this episode with Jackie Rayner. Coming up next week, one of the biggest personalities in martial arts, Mr. Mick Tully.
Check out the Malmag store at www.martialartslifestylemagazine.com and click on the store tab. There, you will find a full selection of Timmy B's brand sticks for FMA and Kirby Kerbong, as well as Timmy B's and Dos Manos t-shirts. Many more products coming soon. Also click on our courses tab to purchase online courses, right now featuring a course in the Dos Manos stick of FMA. More courses to come. This show is produced by Martial Arts Lifestyle Magazine. Visit us at www.martialartslifestylemagazine.com and enjoy the free version of our online magazine with articles, a recommended schools page, and a worldwide events calendar. Music by Jack Al Relic. Martial Arts Lifestyle Magazine and the Martial Arts Lifestyle Podcast are trademarked and copyrighted by TNT LLC.